why anti-gunners believe that they're never wrong, the fight for our rights in leftist states, and our special guest, Kevin Zacharewicz. Today is May 16th, 2020. You're listening to Good Gun, Bad Guy Radio, and I'm Dan Wos.
Exposing the anti-gun lies and giving you the truth. Good Gun, Bad Guy Radio with Dan Wos.
Thanks for joining me today for some straight shooting Second Amendment talk. Broadcasting across America and around the globe, powered by the Hagman Report. Good Gun, Bad Guy Radio can be heard each and every Saturday from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, broadcasting on the Global Star Radio Network and its affiliates. You can visit goodgunbadguyradio.com or HagmanReportLive.com to listen to the show live or stream the show on demand 24/7. Show archives can be found on iHeartRadio and YouTube, and you can download the podcast of the show on your favorite podcast app. Email me at info@goodgunbadguy.com. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and just about every other social media platform on the planet. And to check out the Good Gun Bad Guy book series, go to goodgunbadguy.net. After listening to an anti-gunner go on and on about how only cops should have guns, I asked him, if someone were to break into your house and threaten the lives of your family with a gun, do you have a cop to defend and protect them? Well, he got pissed off, grabbed his latte, and stormed out. The amazing thing about anti-gunners and anti-second radicals is that those same people will buy auto insurance and homeowners insurance, and they yet choose not to insure their own safety. And the idea that someone would buy insurance for their car but none for their life may not make sense to you until you begin to understand the psychological hold that's been placed on them. I'm not talking about the life insurance you purchase that offers a cash reward to your surviving family members after you die. I'm talking about the life insurance that preserves your life so you don't die. The problem is not necessarily that they choose to be unarmed and helpless. The problem is that they try to make you and me unarmed and helpless right along with them. Not only do anti-gunners choose unarmed and helpless as a way of life, they've developed a number of arguments to justify it, and they work hard to convince others that it's a good condition to be in. This is irresponsible in a society like ours. In America, we have people living among us that want to do us harm and have the means to do it. We don't always know who they are. Not only are you at risk when you choose the condition of unarmed and helpless, but you also affect everyone around you, family, friends, coworkers, even the people that you may not even know. When an element of our society fights to make us unsafe by pursuing personal disarmament because they believe it's a good idea, they become a danger to our society. The Second Amendment is the most important amendment in our Bill of Rights because it's the only one that actually talks about the right to defend our lives from the destructive ideas of this dangerous group of people. That's why there's such a fierce battle to preserve it. The clash of ideologies that we see in America is just absolutely astounding. Now, how is it that we as human beings can be so divided on these issues? Take a look at guns, abortions, capitalism, welfare, war, immigration, or any other hot topic, and you'll find Americans' opinions split down the middle. For the most part, people are not only split, but they take a very strong stance in support of their view and seem to have no tolerance for the other. It also seems that in most cases, if you side with a group, conservative or liberal, on one topic, you tend to agree on all. I find that conservative values are rooted in traditional American values, the values that our country was founded on. When I look at the values that the liberal left supports and adheres to, it seems more to be joining the group, and that particular group has the values and they tell you which values you should support. That's the difference. It seems to me that the conservative side believes in things because they truly believe in them, whereas the liberal side tends to gravitate toward the political group and hold the political group to a higher value than the actual values that the group promotes. And I say this because I know a lot of Jewish people who have gravitated toward liberal progressivism and in the process have been willing to give up the support of their religion. This is astonishing because we always think our religious values are the highest values. Well, for conservatives, they tend to be. But it doesn't seem that way when you look at the left. They're willing to give up their religion for the support of their political group. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the way I see it. This is the way I see it in the media. And also the idea that they are willing to give up rights that are written in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights. They're willing to give up their own freedom for the support of their political group, their political party. It's just it's really amazing to me. Whereas conservatives don't. If a conservative agrees with you and you are a conservative, they'll tell you. Conservatives have no problem disagreeing with other people in their own political realm. And that's the beauty of being on the right. We can have the discussions that we don't always agree with our friends on. And we may even argue, but we respect and appreciate the views of our friends and family, and we won't kick them out, so to speak, of our group of friends or our political party, or we won't demonize them. We tend to respect the views of people, and if we don't agree, well, we understand how important it is to just let people have their own views, as long as they don't affect us in a negative way. In other words, you can believe whatever the hell you want, as long as your beliefs don't cause harm to me or my family. It's different on the left. On the left, there seems to be an I'm right, you're wrong mentality. And this mentality is very destructive to our society. In other words, if you don't believe with the views of those on the left, well, then you're wrong, you're racist, you're homophobic, you're xenophobic, you're whatever term they want to use to demonize you. And they have gotten to the point where they are heavily using the accusation of racism constantly. And the reason they've gotten to that point is because that's probably the most heinous thing you could accuse somebody of. They've expelled and used up all their other strategies and tactics and have resorted to name-calling, labeling, and demonization. If you don't agree with what they say. So, nobody wants to be called a racist. And I'm sure the first few accusations that good people got, they probably felt very uncomfortable. Now, what happens is left-wingers are constantly calling everyone racist. So the pain of that term it's kind of lost its punch. In other words, it doesn't really affect people anymore, because we know that the people on the left are just using it out of desperation. We know we're not racist. We know our friends aren't racist and our family aren't racist just because we're, conservatives or real Americans, traditional Americans, Republicans. We know we're not racist, so we can't accept that term. And we're starting to know, and I think even people on the left are starting to realize that, the term has really lost its punch. It's not effective anymore. It's like crying wolf. You can cry wolf so many times, and at some point people will stop running to your rescue. You can call your political opposition racist just so many times, and the world will stop believing you at some point. And I think that's what's happening. I think the world looks at those racist accusations that come from those insecure type people, and who are actually the racist ones, because they're the ones who constantly have racism on their minds. But the world kind of looks at them now as, just angry children. Because when a child can't get their way, what do? They kick and scream, and they use whatever ability, strategy, tactic that they have at their disposal to get what they want. So in this case, the racist terms, homophobic terms, all these accusations and labeling is really their last straw. And so that's so we start to recognize it, and it's all because they can't seem to accept another person's views. Because what would it mean about their views if someone else's views that contradicted their views was correct? That would say a lot about them personally. So they have to stick to the I'm right, you're wrong idea. And I'm right, you're wrong is chapter 9 of Good Gun, Bad Guy. So I'm giving you a little bit of that chapter, that book. In episode 9, we're talking about chapter 9 of the first book, Good Gun, Bad Guy, because I want to, if you haven't heard any shows prior, I want to bring the show along the course of the book series. So you can, as you're listening to the show, you can get an idea of what's in the Good Gun, Bad Guy books. This is the stuff I talk about. This is the mindset, really, is the mindset of the anti-gun. And what happens is it crosses over to leftists, to liberal progressives, people on the left. And these strategies that are used to push for more gun regulations are the same exact strategies that are used to demonize conservatives and gun owners and Republicans in general. So the strategies are very good, very effective. In this case, it's a demonization strategy that I'm talking about. In other words, demonize your opponent, make them look so bad, so racist, so homophobic, so dangerous, so heinous, and so ugly that no one would ever want to side with them. And that's what the left does. That's their strategy. And got to admit, it works. Because look at the way the media piles on. They actually gain supporters because there are many people who don't want to be associated with anything that's bad. I'm not saying Republicans are bad. I'm saying just the opposite, actually. Traditional Americans, I like to use the term traditional Americans. Traditional Americans, those who believe in the Constitution and Bill of Rights, we're the good guys. The socialists who have kind of tarnished our political system for their own benefit, they're the bad guys. They're the ones that we really need to be aware of, and they're the ones that, if we can help them, great. But politically, often there's no way to help them, and they must be defeated at the polls and voted out. Attention businesses, we want to get your message out. If you're a small business, large business, entrepreneur, just starting out, public speaker, author, event promoter, gun shop, gun range, online marketplace, whatever you do, get your message heard nationally right here on Good Gun Bad Guy Radio. Why radio? Because people listen. Present yourself or your company to an audience that is truly listening. An audience that wants to know where they can get truth in media and products from highly reputable businesses. If you're in the firearms industry, even better. This is where the gun owners are, right here on Good Gun Bad Guy Radio. Shoot us an email at info@goodgunbadguy.com for more information on advertisement pricing and scheduling. Don't have an ad? No problem. Our producers will create one for you. It's what they do. That's info@goodgunbadguy.com, because you want to be where your audience is. So why is it that some people are afraid of being wrong while others kind of take it in stride and learn from failures? You know, being wrong to some is a matter of simple awareness and just recalibration. I mean, ask any CEO how often he or she is wrong, and you'll most likely find out that the answer is more often than not. This is because some people use failure as a tool to grow. I remember creating a business plan, for a new company I was launching, and my advisors watched every single keystroke and calculation that, like a hawk. I was held accountable to every financial projection, every piece of market information I presented. And if something didn't make sense or seemed like it was unfounded or wasn't backed up with any sound data, I was questioned. During the process, I was often wrong. And I learned early on that I was not going to get away with passing anything off as fact, because I was scrutinized every step of the way. Every data point that I presented needed to be backed up by more data, because it would be used to build the company model. So if the initial data had weak merit, it would affect what was to come after that. So you wouldn't build a house on an inferior foundation. Therefore, I was held accountable. It didn't feel good when I was, and it didn't feel good because being held accountable shined a spotlight on me as being unprepared or having not done my homework with that particular piece of business plan that I was working on. So I was caught in the act, basically. And it was embarrassing. I quickly learned that if I wanted to build this model and ultimately turn it into a working company, I needed to put in the time necessary and pay attention to every single piece of data. So I tell you this because, the problem we find with the anti-gun left is that they don't have all the data. They may have like one piece of information that may or may not be true, and they build their whole argument on that. Not only do they build their whole argument on it, they take it as solid fact, and they enter it into their whole belief structure about guns. This is why people are so fearful of guns, some people, because they've taken in information that is not true. It either comes from a faulty study, like an anti-gun study, any of these Bloomberg-funded studies. They'll research or they'll survey just select portions of society or select demographics or select age groups, select political people with political views. Their study is based often in areas that they know will result in the answers that they want. Unfortunately, it backfired on them during the Obama administration. We have, I talk a lot about the Gary Kleck study. The Gary Kleck study showed us that guns are used approximately 2.5 million times per year to save lives, defensive gun uses. So at the time during Obama's administration, they were taking taxpayer-funded money and using it for the CDC to do firearm research. So the study came up with a number of 2.46 million defensive gun uses, which is so close to Gary Kleck's study that it's not even worth debating. Gary Kleck comes up with 2.5 million. CDC comes up with 2.46 million. Essentially the same thing. So they didn't want that information getting out, so they'll never talk about that. But that's one instance where the anti-gun crowd had their data blow back in their face. It didn't line up. So they don't talk about that. They'll talk about some, like I said, some Bloomberg-funded study that shows numbers that they want to see. They don't look at FBI. They don't look at DOJ. They don't look at Gary Kleck. They don't look at John Lott. They don't look at the reputable firearm-related studies. People who do this stuff all the time. This is what they do. They'll go to the privately funded groups and organizations that are on their side, they're willing to support their agenda. Those are where they want to get their information. And so they can put it out in the media. Other supportive media outlets will pick it up and run with it. Then you go online and you look for data, look in a gun study or whatever, and all you'll see is the same corresponding numbers and information, and you're supposed to think that this is accurate. This is the manipulation of search engines and the manipulation of media, the overabundance of fake news, fake media, fake studies, faulty statistics. Because the more it's out there, the more it becomes, in the minds of the readers, valid. So look, if I Googled something related to a gun study and I wanted to know the truth, and the first 2 pages showed me that, guns are the worst thing on the planet and they need to be banned because of this, 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 and this, I'd be like, oh my God, everybody's saying the same thing. It must be true. All these news outlets are saying the same thing. And then I get to page, Google page 14, and I see one little study that was done by, let's say John Lott. And it shows something completely different. Well, the person who doesn't know anything about guns, and doesn't know that the media is lying to them, will believe the majority of the media, whatever is in their face the most. So that's where, the media manipulation comes into the whole conversation. But they need to be right, and they need you to be wrong, because that way they're validated and you're demonized. So that's why I talk a lot about in this chapter, I'm Right, You're Wrong, chapter number 9 of Good Gun, Bad Guy. So why are we supposed to care? Well, we're supposed to care because our freedom is really at stake here. And when we look at the way the media changes the facts and changes history, we're moving forward with faulty data. And this is why a lot of school books now are being changed. They don't want to talk about certain historical events because their excuse is because of racism or whatever. But what happens is our children growing up, your kids, your grandkids are going to school and they're not learning about the Revolutionary War in the way it should be taught. They're not learning about other historical events. They're learning a left-wing version of it that's created to shape society moving forward. You can shape the way someone evolves. I mean, look at the way our kids are raised. You know, some kids will come from a family that has a certain set of values, and they will grow up a certain way. They'll be shaped ideologically by their family. And then other kids might come from a completely different set of rules, set of guidelines that their parents put forward. And you can see this generation after generation after generation. So what happens is when we start to give our kids to the socialist, industry, education industry, we're letting them be shaped by an ideology that we may not agree with. I know I don't. You know, when my son graduated high school, he had some beliefs about things that I didn't know where they came from. And I questioned him. I said, where'd you get that idea? How do you know that's true? Well, that's what I heard in school. You know, that's what he's taught. And so as responsible parents, it's important that since we are subjected to that type of schooling, I guess, we have a responsibility to guide our children back to reality and guide them back by showing them truth and facts and real history and questioning them and saying, well, you know, is it true? You know, maybe this isn't true. Did you ever think about this? Did you ever view it this way? Because your belief may not have anything to back it up, any solid data to back it up. And again, we get back to the solid data to back up a hypothesis. And in this case, we're talking about actual history to back up ideological beliefs. If the actual history you were taught was wrong and set up for a political agenda, then your beliefs moving forward in life, when you go on to raise your kids and your kids raise their kids, that's going to stick, and it's going to be part of your family tradition or family ideology or family, beliefs. So when the data, just like when I did my business plan with my advisors, if the underlying foundational data wasn't substantial enough and didn't carry enough validity, then everything built on top of that data is worthless because it's wrong. They call it the fruit of the poison tree. If you have a bad foundation, the entire house is essentially worthless because it may fall down. So history is important because knowing the actual true history and our kids learning it in school is important because as they grow and move forward, their beliefs and ideology will grow from that. But what we find on the left is that they try to change history to fit and suit their political agenda. This is why you saw statues of General Lee and other people being knocked down. Historical people, historical images, because they didn't like what that person did, and they want to change the way future generations see the country. They want to change the way future generations see American history. Because real American history is not something that they agree with because it doesn't suit them. It doesn't suit a government control society. Real American history, the Revolutionary War and our founding fathers fought for independent freedom, where the people were in charge of their government, not government ruling people.
Pants high five. All right.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique.
And your mother and... I am totally a hot person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Attention businesses, we want to get your message out. If you're a small business, large business, entrepreneur, just starting out, public speaker, author, event promoter, gun shop, gun range, online marketplace, whatever you do, get your message heard nationally right here on Good Gun Bad Guy Radio. Why radio? Because people listen. Present yourself or your company to an audience that is truly listening. An audience that wants to know where they can get truth in media and products from highly reputable businesses. If you're in the firearms industry, even better. This is where the gun owners are, right here on Good Gun Bad Guy Radio. Shoot us an email at info@goodgunbadguy.com for more information on advertisement pricing and scheduling. Don't have an ad? No problem. Our producers will create one for you. It's what they do. That's info@goodgunbadguy.com, because you want to be where your audience is. America has chosen safety over freedom and victimhood over responsibility. This is our fault. We let this happen. Real Americans have given our children to a socialist-infested school system and media. As a result, we've cultivated a society of dependence and entitlement. We don't fight back like we should. We don't uphold traditional American values like we should. And we don't teach our children the truth about American exceptionalism and rugged individualism. We were given the most beautiful experiment in individual freedom, where the people rule the government, and we've squandered it out of fear. Democrat-run media has done a fantastic job of demonizing anyone who goes against their ideology, and unfortunately, too many are afraid to speak out because they feel like the minority. The truth is, the American spirit is alive and well. We just need to show it to the world. Underneath the unassuming facade and shackles, a fierce American spirit waits to be unleashed. And the bad guys know it. If you're no longer willing to accept the destruction of our country, stand up, straighten your spine, and fight back. Our future generations are counting on you. God and our founding fathers are cheering you on. You're listening to Good Gun Bad Guy Radio with me, Dan Wos. Today is May 16th, 2020. Good Gun Bad Guy Radio can be heard each and every Saturday from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, broadcasting on the Global Star Radio Network. Go to goodgunbadguyradio.com, and to check out the Good Gun Bad Guy book series, go to goodgunbadguy.net. I too often see people, say things like, well, what can I do about it? The government creates laws and restrictions and regulations, and pretty soon you can't even function in a normal way in society. Think about all the rules and regulations you have to follow just to go to the corner store. Everything from, walking out of your house, getting in your car, wearing your seatbelt, the directionals and brake lights and all the features of your vehicle are highly regulated. I'm not saying it's all bad, but regulation is everywhere we look. We pull out of our driveway and we have a stop sign or a traffic light. There are lines painted on the road. We get to, the store. We have to follow regulations just to walk in, especially now with the corona scare. It's mandatory that you wear a mask or you keep distance from other people. It's like we're turning ourselves into robots with regulations. So I guess, my question is, how does this serve us? I mean, we know that traffic lights are good. They prevent us from getting in accidents. They're a way of organizing. I don't necessarily agree with, cops waiting behind trees for you to do something wrong so they can, send you to court and collect fees. I think sometimes these guidelines or traffic laws, for instance, are intended to keep people safe, but used often by local governments to generate revenue. So I don't always agree. But when it comes to government mandating that you must wear a mask if you go into a building, or you can't gather with friends and family, or you can't have your kids play with other kids in the neighborhood, or you can't open your business. These are things that are more destructive than they are helpful. So how do we handle this? I mean, do we just let our government tell us what to do? Because if we do, we got it all backwards. It's supposed to be the other way around, right? We're supposed to tell our government what to do. I thought that was the thing. Well, it seems that we've become passive. And I'm not talking about defying our government for the sake of defiance or making a point. I'm talking about looking at things reasonably, looking at things with logic. And does this actually work? Yes or no? Does it help? Yes or no? Does this particular regulation or rule cause more harm? And we talk about this a lot with gun regulations. Gun regulations generally cause more death because they work to disarm good people. Because we all know, and we've said it a million times, that bad guys don't follow the gun laws and gun regulations. And stick around, because very shortly, in a few minutes, we're going to have Kevin Zacharewicz from Zacks Sports. He's a gun shop owner. He's going to come on and he's going to tell us all about how gun regulations and rules work, how maybe ineffective they are. We're also going to talk about New York specifically, which is one of the most draconian states. I happen to live in it. And Kevin's going to talk to us about all that stuff. But laws and rules and regulations don't always do a good thing. When it comes to guns in particular, they specifically make things worse. Look at red flag laws, for instance. These are laws created in, I think right now, 17 or 18 states that allow anybody to have guns taken away from good people without due process. This is a law that's not good. It puts people in danger. It takes away their civil rights, their constitutional rights. We can look at gun-free zones, specifically gun-free school zones. As soon as Joe Biden introduced the Gun-Free School Zones Act and it was signed into law, school killings nearly doubled. How does this help us? It doesn't. It certainly doesn't help our kids, our school kids. Puts them in danger. So gun laws never help. They only make things worse, because the bad guy, really what you're doing is you're opening a door for the bad guys and you're restricting the good guys. It's like declawing the cat because the dog keeps attacking it. I have an actual situation. My dog's name is Apollo. Cat's name is Rocky. Yes, we're into movies. But the dog, Apollo, would attack Rocky the cat. And then Rocky the cat would scratch the heck out of Apollo's nose and make him bleed. So my wife and I were talking about it. We're going, what are we going to do? I mean, he's getting his nose all shredded. What are we going to do? Should we declaw the cat? And we said, what are we thinking? How could we possibly think that? The cat is doing exactly what he should do. He's defending himself. If the dog is, stupid enough to keep attacking the cat, then I guess he deserves it. But as it turns out, Apollo, the dog, learned pretty quickly to stop attacking Rocky the cat because it didn't work out very well for him. This is the same exact scenario we have with gun restrictions. The anti-gun socialists that live among us want to disarm the good guys. They know that the bad guys will attack even more. And what they do is they'll take those numbers. Because if the bad guys are using guns and the good guys are disarmed, then they can still use those numbers of gun-related homicides to push for even more gun restrictions. You see how that works? It's a cycle. Create the problem by disarming good people, which will cause more gun-related deaths because good people can't defend themselves. And then use those gun-related deaths that you created to push for even more gun restrictions. So eventually, they can have a gun-free society where only law enforcement and government has access to guns, and which is exactly what they want. It's what all communists want. They and the Democrats that vote for this sort of thing believe that that's the way it should be. They've been taught to think that the Constitution is, as they say, antiquated. It's old and outdated, and we shouldn't have it. We should adjust it. The Constitution should mold and should be fluid to adjust to the way our society is now. Well, no, that's the problem. As our society goes crazy and goes stray, the Constitution is the only thing that brings us back to freedom, brings us back to a place where we, the people, are in charge, where the government works for us. But so many people, forget that, and they want to disregard the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and they want to create a new society. They want to create a new progressive world. Well, that all sounds good. It's like the idea of moving forward and growing and progressing it sounds like a good thing, but what they really want to do is regress. They want to go back to an ideal that government controls the people. And sometimes it's astonishing to think that they actually think and believe in a socialist type worldview, even a communist worldview. And it all comes from the idea that some people don't want to take responsibility for freedom, because with freedom comes responsibility to fight for it and to defend it and to fix our own mistakes and, handle our own affairs and not have government step in all the time and fix things or do things or give us things. But there's some people who just don't want that responsibility. They don't want that level of freedom, because with it comes work, comes the hard work. You have to go out, earn money, support your family. You have to actually go out and do that. You have to go out and create some sort of valuable product or service in the world that people are willing to give you money for in order for you to support your family. What a concept. But some people look at that as a bad thing. They would much rather play the victim and say, oh, I can't, or, oh, I don't have the resources, or I'm, incapable of doing that, or I have some sort of issue that causes me to not be able to do it. Therefore, I need to be taken care of. That's the victim mentality. And that's what our society is being raised to believe, that they're a victim of some sort, that somebody's oppressing them, that there's racists out there around every corner, that there's homophobic people that are trying to hold them down, and prevent them from succeeding. There are sexist people out there that are trying to prevent women from rising up and growing. It's such a bunch of nonsense, all created to instill a dependency or a victimhood among society. And the only reason people would want to create that is because that's an easier way for government to be able to dictate, control how people function, how people move around, how people raise their families, and how people work and how they travel, and just everything. And to some people, this organized, structured society makes sense because to them it feels safe. So what do we have to defend ourselves against that type of tyranny? Well, we have the Second Amendment. That's why it was written, to avoid and prevent society from taking that big dive into socialism and communism. And that's why it was written. That's why our founding fathers wrote it. So now we have these draconian states like New York, California, Massachusetts, who are trying to regulate guns so they can restrict the use of them, so that people can't protect themselves and can't rise up. And along with the victim mentality, that's their system. We're going to talk more about the New York gun laws right after this. I'm coming back, and we will have Kevin Zacharewicz from Zacks Sports, and we're going to dig right into this stuff. I'm going to ask him all sorts of questions. You're going to love it. Stick around. Attention businesses, we want to get your message out. If you're a small business, large business, entrepreneur, just starting out, public speaker, author, event promoter, gun shop, gun range, online marketplace, whatever you do, get your message heard nationally right here on Good Gun Bad Guy Radio. Why radio? Because people listen. Present yourself or your company to an audience that is truly listening. An audience that wants to know where they can get truth in media and products from highly reputable businesses. If you're in the firearms industry, even better. This is where the gun owners are, right here on Good Gun Bad Guy Radio. Shoot us an email at info@goodgunbadguy.com for more information on advertisement pricing and scheduling. Don't have an ad? No problem. Our producers will create one for you. It's what they do. That's info@goodgunbadguy.com, because you want to be where your audience is. All right, as promised, our special guest, Kevin Zacharewicz, is with us today. Now, Kevin is a New York gun shop owner who's been in business for 27 years. He's been on the front line of gun sales, training, and just dealing with the draconian New York gun regulations. So hopefully we can get into all that and give people an accurate view of what's going on in New York when it comes to gun sales. So, Kevin, great to have you here today. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate being here. I appreciate your show, and it'd be interesting to get the viewpoint to your listeners on New York State and what we have to go through to get guns in our hands, in people's hands, and legally, obviously, and all that stuff.
Well, that's exactly, that was the first thing I was going to ask you, really, is, I talk about this stuff a lot. I talk about, guns on a national level and in different states, but people know that I live, here in New York, and it's pretty tough at times. So coming from your perspective of being a gun shop owner, and now you guys have from what I understand, you have a range as well, an indoor range, and you do training, pistol permit training and stuff like that. So I guess people just really want to know, just how difficult is it to deal with some of the New York gun regulations, and what's the overall landscape of what New Yorkers have to deal with, and what people from out of state would have to deal with coming to New York?
Yeah, so look, a lot of great questions, and questions I deal with almost every day when we can be open. We're not essential here in New York State, so right now the store is shut down, unfortunately. But that's why I have time for this beautiful interview and to hopefully answer your question. So, Guns and Ammo magazine does a whole thing every couple of years on surveying the states and which states are gun friendly, which states aren't gun friendly, and it seems like New York always comes up as the 50th state, or the worst state there could possibly be.
Yeah.
so we're lucky enough. I'm lucky enough to do business in this climate. Why don't I get my head checked? I don't know, and move out of this state. I'm sure a lot of you the listeners are thinking, and you're right. I should, just that my roots are here, my family is here, and this is what it's all about. And you have to have people in states like New York, like California, and Jersey, and Mass, and all that, Illinois. That have the fight, because we are Americans. We are. This is what we do. We have the Second Amendment, and we should have this. And if I want to live in New York, I should be able to, live in New York. I just, everybody knows, a guy from Florida knows that I'm just not right in my head that I want to live here. But that's that's my opinion, I guess. But yeah, so the idea here is New York State regulates firearms. So nationally, the federal government, ATF, since 1972, regulates what we can have and what we can import, and the regulations on the background. FBI does a background check, but the forms to what somebody has to get a gun or a suppressor or silencer or short-barreled rifle or that, and all that type of stuff. In New York, we have also the state government here that regulates us. And so we regulate, or the state regulates handguns, and they defined what an assault weapon is. I'm sorry to say that.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I love this one. This one drives me crazy. Their version of their definition. Yep.
Yeah, so back in 2013, they passed the SAFE Act. They defined what an assault weapon is, and now the state, regulates assault weapons. And as you know, assault weapons can be long guns as well. So we regulate long guns and we regulate handguns in the state. It's horrible what they do to us. So we have a lot of people that tend to move here. We're a moving society, and people do move into New York daily, and they come from a lot of the free states, as like we like to call them. And when they come in this state, they realize, like, wow, wait a minute, I have to get a handgun license. And so we'll kind of attack the whole handgun license ordeal if you'd like.
Oh, absolutely. Like oh, sure thing.
Okay. Yeah. So just bringing a gun into this state. So you're an American, you're a hardworking, God-fearing, or if I'm allowed to say that anyway, law-abiding, there we go, American, and you got this great job, or you're visiting family, and you decide you're going to come to New York, and you're going to bring your firearm because that's what you do. You have an everyday carry, and that's where you feel secure, and you're allowed to, because we have the Second Amendment, right? So now you're going to come to New York for your job, let's say, and as soon as you cross that line, even though you bought that gun legally and it's your gun, as soon as you cross that state line and come into New York for whatever reason, if you do not have that gun registered and you're not registered as of having a New York State handgun license, you're in trouble. You're looking at an unregistered gun. You're looking at an unregistered user. You got a lot of things going on. Some of the things can be felonies, up to a felony. Most of them are misdemeanors. Going to get you in trouble. also depends on what part of the state you're going to. Obviously, we have New York City, the 5 boroughs down there. We go into New York City with our firearms. You're in trouble. That's felony type stuff. They're putting you in jail. They don't care. They have a prosecutor down there.
Even if you have a New York State handgun permit, you can't go into New York City. Yeah.
It's like another country, New York City. So I'm part of New York State, obviously. And New York State, you're correct, 100%. New York State has a license that covers the whole state. But we are not allowed, a New York State license is not allowed to have a gun in the city. You have to have the special New York City license, and obviously that's for the privileged. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I can't.
Yeah, no political correctness here, Kevin.
Oh, wow! I don't know what that's like. I don't know what that's like. And, obviously, we have to watch what we say all the time.
Well, we're under FCC regulations, so we're gonna try to keep the bad words. I might have to bleep out the bad words, but I don't want you to hold it. I want you to tell people what it's like. I mean, this is why we're here today talking. People need to know the truth about New York and its tyranny especially under Governor Cuomo.
Yeah. So we regulate ourselves. I'm a handgun owner, so I have a handgun license. So I'm regulated and I'm registered. So people talk about registration. That's a key word right there, right? It's a big trendy word, registration. Well, I'm registered as a handgun owner to the state of New York, and my handguns are registered to New York State and to me. So they know what guns I have. Yeah. If theoretically, if their computer's working right, they know what guns I have, where my guns are, and that I'm allowed to have the gun because I went through all the licensing and I didn't get any certain misdemeanors and certain felonies will get that license taken away. Or quite honestly, a judge, an issuing authority. So it goes down to the county level. It's your county judge that's actually issuing the license. And that county judge, if that county judge heard something on you or you were doing something that wasn't quite right and that judge doesn't feel that you should have that handgun license, that judge can take it away from you. There's nothing in the law that states that they can't. You have no rights for it. So they can theoretically take that. Yep.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt, Kevin. I just had a thought here. So what you're talking about is the may issue versus shall issue. And how it changes from county to county. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, 100%. And thank you for saying may issue and shall issue. And 100%. Yeah, that judge can take it away from you. So it's not a bureaucratic thing. Florida, right? If I want a handgun license in Florida, it's a handgun license for the rest of the country. They don't have a, you can get, I as a New York State resident can get a Florida license. It's a wonderful license. I just have to be instructed by an NRA, a live shoot NRA instructor, and I have to live shoot a gun. The instructor has to watch me, and I put in, and it's very bureaucratic. I fill out the application, I pay my money, I give them my fingerprints, they run a background check, and I'm guessing in a couple of weeks later, I go ahead and I get my handgun license, and now I'm legal in Florida to carry my handgun. Not like that here in this state, in New York. In that it's down by county. We have 62 counties in this state, and each county has a different issuing authority. So I'm very, very fortunate in that my county, Saratoga County is what I'm in, our sheriff and our judge, the sheriff really has not much to do with it, but of course the judge issues the sheriff, tells the sheriff how they're going to work on this, how they're going to do the background checks, how they're going to process the paperwork and all that stuff. So my judge and my sheriff are excellent in this county, very, very good people, very honest, conservative Republicans that feel that people should have guns or can have guns, but obviously are going through the New York State laws. So we have two types of license. We have a carry concealed license. I might have went a little forward on that. I hope I didn't skip a step here, but now you come in and from another state. Let me get back to it. You come in from another state. Don't come in from another state is what I'm going to tell you. So if you're moving here, you have to have lived here for 1 year. So New York State's going to get all their tax money for a year from you. Then you are a vested resident, and you can apply through your county of residence for your handgun license. So in this county, Saratoga County, I'm fortunate enough to be one of the instructors. So I can instruct you, go through a 5-hour safety course. It tells you all great stuff, and then you'll get a hopefully they'll go through all the background checks. You'll have 4 character references. Let's just say you get approved. All right, that's the end goal here. You're a good person. You're a legal person. You're going to get approved. So you get approved. Now you can carry the gun. You can have the gun. Be careful how I say carry. You're going to get a carry concealed license, but that's not what it means in, say, Pennsylvania or Ohio or Florida. Right. What that means is that you're carrying that gun out of the view of the public, and that you're getting, what they usually do is they restrict it to hunting and target use, so that you're coming from your home to the range, to the gun club, to wherever you go to shoot that gun. Could be at a family farm, but that family farm, you better be 500 foot away from the residence, another residence, and you better have a proper backstop. And it better be legal in that community. Some communities don't allow guns going off. In their community, in their township, they're allowed to have that. Believe it or not, they're allowed to say that. But anyway, let's say that's all good and everything like
Kevin,
that. So that's the type of license you're going to get.
Kevin, let me interrupt 1 second. Was that 500 feet, 500 yards? I thought it was 300 yards last I heard. I wasn't sure about the distance.
500 feet.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Okay. So what you're talking about now is the two-tier license we have in New York, correct?
Perfect. So the 2-tier, I like that. So they don't really talk of it as that. So that's a nice. We're actually we should be trending right now somewhere in some sort of metric of a 2-tier. So you're getting this carry concealed. And by the way, in other counties, so I just talking about Saratoga County, and in other counties in New York, they're actually allowed to have carry concealed or just a premises license or just a license for work. Meaning you're some sort of an armed security guard, or maybe you're like you travel around with money, like a what do they call those, like like a Brinks guy or something like that. I'm sorry to advertise for them. Armored car. Thank you, an armored car type of person, right? You're going up picking up money at the ATMs or whatever. So of course we want those people to be armed. And that might be the only reason that county's judge or the issuing authority in that county is going to give that license to that person. That meaning that gun may have to stay somewhere, maybe even at the local police barracks until they have their shift. They go to the police barracks, they get their gun, then they go to their it's crazy, right? I mean, a guy right now from Ohio should be listening to this going, is this for real? Yeah. This can't be for real. But it is. This is how we work. This is everyday life. When we go shooting at the range, check this out. So now I got this carry concealed license for restricted to hunting and target. I'm at the gun club. I'm shooting. I'm having fun. I'm enjoying my Second Amendment right. And all of a sudden, I remember I got to go home, and my wife calls me up. Let's just say, I don't know why it's got to be my wife, but my wife calls me up and says, hey, listen, we're out of milk and the kids really need milk. And so now we're going to go to the local convenience store, and I'm going to get milk on my way home, right? Because the gun club is 45 minutes away, and I passed 6 or 7 of these convenience stores that we have around here. Yeah. So, I'm just going to zoom into a convenience store, grab the milk. This is like an easy thing to do. This is normal. Every American does this. Goes in, grabs milk, puts it in the truck, and I'm going to head back to the house. And I'm happy because I got food for my family, right? Or I got my milk from my family, for my kids. No, you can't do this. This is what they're giving you is a concealed carry, meaning that it's out of the view of the public. So it could be in a backpack or a range bag or something like that. And then the gun, you're allowed to have it from your home to the range and from the range back to the home. Doesn't say I can go to that convenience store.
Right.
So now let's say I went to that convenience store, and I'm going to be really cool about this. I'm going to keep the gun in the truck, right? So that's what everybody says. In these classes, in our classes that we have, I'm just going to hide the gun underneath the car seat. Or I'm going to hide the gun in the back, in the way back of the truck or the SUV or in the trunk or whatever the case might be. And I'm just going to run in, right? Well, you know what it's like when you run in. There's a line. There's some guy, waiting for, the lottery tickets or whatever. He's got to get his favorite one, whatever it might be. And now you forgot to lock your truck, or your truck gets stolen, car, whatever it is, gets stolen, So now who do you think the law comes down on real hard? Because now there's a gun out there. Yeah, you just got your pistol license, your handgun license taken away. You're lucky if you don't get jailed for now, putting a gun on the streets, because you were supposed to go from the range back to your home and lock up that gun, and then go from your home out to the convenience store unarmed, no gun, and get that, whatever, that milk or whatever the heck you needed to get. So yeah, it's craziness here. So, this is what people don't understand when they come in from some of the freer states, and there's a lot of free states in our beautiful nation. The other thing is, so we go and get this. We take the course. A lot of people say, "Oh, I got to take courses in my state too." Okay, that's cool. Well, we take the course here, but just because you took the course and you did the paperwork, it takes anywhere from 2 to 6 months to obtain this pistol license. This isn't like a 2-week thing. This isn't a 3-day thing. This is a long period of time to get this pistol license. Yeah. Okay, so now you have this pistol license. The gun is registered. You got it on. You did all this stuff. But we're gun people. We don't have one gun. We got to have lots of guns, right? I mean, and because they're all different, right?
Sure.
We might want a revolver for going hunting. We might want to. We're into IDPA, so now we got to have that latest Glock or Koenig or Smith and Wesson or whatever's out there, SIG, whatever, and we got to go and get that, and then we need the 22. Got to have the 22, to go out with the kids, and we'll talk about kids a little later if you remind me.
Sure.
But so we got to have 5, 6, 7 different types of guns because they're all different. Non-gun people don't understand that. So when I go to buy a gun, remember I told you that you're registered, the gun person here and is registered, the handgun owner, and your guns are registered. So you go to the gun dealer, you pick out that beautiful gun that you want. They write you a receipt. You give them a little deposit. They fill out what's called an amendment form. And that amendment form you have to bring to your county. And now the issuing authority, okay, so then the county actually does, your background check again. And they put that in front of the issuing authority. And the issuing authority has to now approve this. I mean, they literally have to. This poor judge who's doing all the things judges do, now has to stop. Yeah. And sign this piece of paper. Now, I talked to my local county judge, and the poor guy, he takes these amendments home on the weekend, and he's signing these amendments on the weekend. And he'll tell me, he goes, "Oh yeah, on Sunday, I'm signing. That's all I'm doing. I'm signing amendments." And I'm thinking, you must get. I'm only one gun shop. We're in a county that's 200,000 people strong. I forget how many. Maybe we have 40, 50, 60,000 handgun licenses in this county. So people are always buying guns. So he's got to be signing. I'm always guessing here, but he's got to be signing 50, 60 of these amendment forms a week.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Or he could be doing other things. Like I'm thinking, like he shouldn't be doing this. He should be doing other judgely things. That whatever all the things a judge has to do. I can only imagine. I don't know his job, but I can only imagine it's probably a big job. So they have to do this. So that's why this it's called the amendment process. The amendment process in some counties can be a week, can be a month. And sometimes it's same-day service. You have some of the smaller counties. There may not be a lot going on, and the judge is able to stop what he's doing, or the court clerk goes up there and just has him sign a piece of paper or a piece of paper, and wishes that amendment form. And then the Pistol Permit Bureau, they basically make this thing called a purchase coupon. And now this purchase coupon, this is so confusing. I lost half the public here. But the purchase coupon now gets given to you, whether it's mailed or whatever. And now you're giving that to the gun dealer. And then you're filling out the 4473 and background check that everybody's used to, and you're finally getting your gun.
So this is what we're talking about here. Let me try to wrap up this section here.
Please summarize me.
This is well, just so people understand, because I know exactly what you're talking about, and I know where you're going with this, because here I am in New York, and as a matter of fact, you guys, your training course you guys give is awesome. You guys are very helpful at the counter. Just everything goes very smooth with your store.
We try.
I want to say right first, before we go any further, you're listening to Good Gun Bad Guy Radio. I'm with Kevin Zacharewicz from Zacks Sports in Round Lake, New York. We're talking about gun regulations, restrictions, and laws in the state of New York. So, Kevin, let me wrap that up. What you're talking about there was the hunting and target concealed carry permit. And then, like I said earlier, there's another tier, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is the unrestricted tier, which is a whole other process. No?
correct.
Okay.
You are right on. So not every county, now I told you there were 62 counties in New York State, not every county is willing to give you that unrestricted license. I told you that I'm in a very good county. There are a lot of counties around me that are good counties: Schenectady County, Saratoga County, and maybe Washington or Warren County. I don't know if Washington County, but anyway, if you know this area of New York, but in other areas of New York, Dutchess County, Greene County, they do these extra advanced safety classes, as they call them, or I like to call it as an advanced class so people don't get confused between the basic 5-hour class. And it's really up to the judge. So our judge, our issuing authority here in Saratoga County, it's an 8-hour course. And it's a good course. I mean, I think people need it just so they understand the law.
Is this for the initial? Is this for the initial permit, or is this for the unrestricted you're talking about?
Yeah. So now I'm talking about the advanced one.
Okay.
So because there's so many different laws and people get confused on when they can use a gun, God forbid, in a self-defense situation or not, I do think it's a good idea that the judge has this advanced class. I know a lot of you are saying, "Oh, really? Come on, that's so non-American." And I get it. I get both sides of it. I'm in the middle. I'm a straddle. I'm a bridge. I'm in the middle of it all. I get it. But if you were to protect a thing in New York State, right, your car, or that very important memento that you got from that's been in your family for 3 generations, and somebody was stealing it. You can't do that. That's a thing. And protecting a thing in New York is illegal. You could protect life. You can protect, you really can. You just certain ways about it. You have to really be under the imminent threat of death. And that's strong here. I'm going real strong for you. And I'm kind of getting away from where I wanted to talk about, but I'm gonna venture back now. But I think people need to know this. That's why I think the course is extremely important, because we have a lot of people that come to this advanced class and they think they can just go ahead and carry this gun, and God forbid somebody threatened them with their lives, that they can just go ahead and use this gun or show this gun. Just showing a gun in New York State, it's called menacing. It's illegal, right? You can't just show a gun. If you're going to bring the gun out, most likely you're going to go to the next step and use the gun. And we have different, inside the home, outside the home. A lot of gun people are used to that talk. But we'll go back. I digress here a little bit. We'll go back. So the advanced safety class is an 8-hour class in the county that I reside in, Saratoga County, that I teach it in. 5 hours of it is all about how you can carry the gun. It's all about safety, refreshing some of the safety. We bring an attorney in. We call it Article 35 here in New York State. So that's physical force and deadly physical force, how we can use that. So a lot of people don't realize what physical force is and what deadly physical force is. So we talk about it, and then the attorney talks about it through case law. Yeah. Extremely interesting stuff.
I remember that. I remember that portion, and it was fantastic. Yeah, it was. We talked a lot about equal force. I think that's what you call it. Yeah. Using equal force and stuff like that. Now, I don't necessarily agree with it, but that's the way it is in New York. It was a good bit of knowledge to learn the law. Yeah,
and I don't want to say I agree with some of this stuff too, but I believe, just like you basically said, people should know it.
Yeah,
and I feel bad that we're making you come to this course. But listen, if you're going to get this unrestricted now, let's see what that means. So you've got this carry concealed already, and it's restricted to hunting and target. But now, hey, now I got that phone call. Remember I gave that example right before, I got that phone call. I was at the range. I got that phone call from the wife, and she said I needed to get milk at the convenience store on my way back. Well, now I have that unrestricted. I can certainly go to that convenience store and get that, whatever I needed, that milk or whatever the case it was, and bring it home. Certainly it's my right now to do that because I did get the right license. But we have to do it a certain way, and we call it concealed carry. It still falls under that concealed carry. But unlike in other states, we cannot print, we cannot show. So I like to call it deep cover. That gun, it cannot be seen at all by anyone. No one should even think you have a gun on you. And that, again, at the course is a big deal when we talk about that. And that's why I really believe in this advanced class, to really educate people on this is the way we're going to do it in New York State. This is the legal way, because I don't want your gun to get taken away. Yeah. What people, again, I got to digress. To get to that unrestricted pistol license, you would have needed to have, so the prerequisite here is you have needed to have a basic handgun license, a restricted handgun license, if you will, that first tier that you so kindly named it. You need to have that for 1 year. So you're almost like on a probation period for 1 year. Yeah. And then after that 1 year, in most of the counties that have this advanced class, you can go to that advanced class or that next level, if you will, to get that unrestriction or those restrictions removed. Now, let's say you got caught printing, simple printing. So, you just, like, I'm an everyday carry guy. All right. I love having a gun on me. I just, it's part of me. It's like my father taught me to always have a knife on me, and the knife really wasn't for self-defense. It was for, opening up a package or you get in trouble and, it's not in trouble as in physical trouble, meaning, you just need to, I don't know what,
cut a piece of rope or a tree limb or something. Right?
Thank you. It's always good to have a knife. So that's how I was taught. That's how I was brought up in this world. And having that gun is just there, and it's a part of me. And I think a lot of people kind of get that. And so I've learned, because I do instruct this stuff and I live this stuff every day, these smaller guns, these micro carries, these Ruger LCPs or the Smith & Wesson Bodyguards or the SIG P238s, to name a few. These are awesome. This is what we carry in New York because they're small. I can wear them with my shorts. I can wear them with jeans or jogging pants, whatever I happen to have on. They go right in the pocket, and it's just easy. Sometimes, though, some people get themselves in trouble in that they want to run to the store. They want to run to, the hardware store, whatever the case might be, and they don't have these small gun. And so they put the bigger gun on. They put the big SIG 226 on, or the big Glock 17 on.
The MP9 or something.
Thank you. Yes, or the MP9. I bleed blue. That's the color of Smith & Wesson. So they put the big Smith & Wesson on, and now they're printing. So now they think about this. So now the guy's reaching up to the upper shelf to get that light bulb in the hardware store or whatever, and he's showing his gun now on his belt.
And there happens to be an anti-gun liberal standing right next to him,
which we have a lot of them around here. and they don't understand, because for whatever reason, it's the opposite of really your tagline. It's everybody with a gun is a bad guy. That's the mindset for some reason in these blue states like New York. Even kind of law enforcement. I don't understand. Sometimes, and I'm gonna go off the deep end here. So if you got to pull me back. But that's how that's the society we live, or New Yorkers, or I as a New Yorker live in, is that you have a gun, you must be a bad guy. Why do you need something like that? We have police, and we have a ton of police around here, and police are good people. Police, I'm a police supporter and all that.
Oh, sure.
But that's the idea. Now, I do a lot of hunting. I go out to Wyoming. And out there, if you don't have a gun, they look at you funny, right? Really, you don't have a gun?
Well, I talk about that stuff a lot. I talk about the difference in mindset, and especially living here in New York. Now, of course, we have a lot of great conservative people that we associate with. You and I probably associate with them more often because of the line of the business that we're in, I guess. But in New York, there's a whole lot of these liberal progressives, and most of them are anti-gun, and so it's almost like just the sight of a gun scares them. Just the conversation of talking about a gun scares them, because they've been so trained to be scared of guns and to look down on people like us, gun owners, good people, good American citizens. They're trained to kind of hold a little bit of a hatred toward us because they feel that we're recklessly putting them in danger. And this is the stuff that I talk about a lot. But that's something that we have to deal with. We have to deal with that every day, Kevin.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I give a short story here. I was lucky enough. I do handgun training, one-on-one training, basically here we go, for usually basic people. People don't know anything about guns. Never evers is like what I like to call them. And so I had this politician in, and she was wanted to know about guns. I don't think she was really on our side. I'll put it nicely like that. And so in order to touch a gun, by the way, in New York State, a handgun, you need to have a handgun license. You just can't come off the street and rent one of the guns to use in the range that's in the building. Can't do that. You got to have a handgun license. So anyway, this lady went out and got her handgun license, the whole 9 yards. Now she bought the handgun from me. Was a 22. I think it was like a Browning Buckmark or something like that. I can't remember. It could have been a Ruger Mark IV. I can't remember. But anyway, so we're in the range. She gets the time. We do a 90-minute session. And she remembers her father having a gun. I remember these conversations, and she's like all happy, and she's like, my father would be very proud of me right now. And I said, that's great, and it should be. It's usually an emotional thing. It's guns are like that. It's a connection to the past. And so she's there. We're in the lane, and I'm teaching her about muzzle discipline and trigger discipline, trigger control, and how to bring a gun up, and her, which eye is her dominant eye, all this stuff we should know already and everything. Okay, so now it's time to shoot the gun, right? So she brings the gun up, and she's really worried about recoil. This is a 22. So she's really worried about recoil. And I get that, so I get her in the right stance. I get her ready, I get her pushed forward. I go lean into the gun, the whole 9 yards. I go, well, listen, we got a big range here. Just go ahead and press the trigger. So the gun is muzzle discipline's proper. Everything's proper. And all that. She goes ahead and she presses the trigger, and the gun fires, obviously, and she can't believe it. She's like, wow, okay, good. I can handle this. I can do this. I'm like, yes, you can. So now we're building confidence. She's all happy. This is wonderful, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now the lesson goes on, and she had to leave the lesson early because she says, this is a lot of work, because I'm not about just shooting a gun. That's not me. I want you to be able to take that gun, whatever you've bought, whether it's a 22 or a 45, and I want you to be able to be accurate and consistent with it at 3, 5, and 7 yards. That's my goal. Yep. That's my only goal, right, in the first couple of lessons. And so she didn't kind of get that concept, right? So she's shooting at the target, and I'm like, no, we were looking at that bullseye, and I'm teaching her how to, sight in the gun and this and that. She finally said, boy, this is a lot of work. This is a lot of pressure. And I said, well, I don't want you to make it a lot of pressure, but you are right. It is not easy to shoot a firearm accurately and consistent every time. Yeah. Have to be, pressing she had a problem with jerking the trigger. So everybody as a gun guy sure. knows that, you just can't jerk that trigger. You got to press that trigger nice and easy until the gun goes off. We weren't teaching any self-defense or anything like that. We're just teaching how to shoot a gun, right? And so I thought it was funny. She hasn't been back since, but I feel bad about that. And I have to reach out to her now that I'm thinking about it. But I kind of felt bad about that. But I also felt like, yeah, that's a gun person right there. And that, we had to learn discipline. Yeah. And they actually call it discipline in gun world. We had to learn a little bit of a stance, or a little bit of, how to hold the firearm, and how to, which eye is our dominant eye, and how are we going to, line those sights up, and all the, the 7-8 steps of handgun fundamentals. I don't want to get into it. It's another show, but it's amazing to me. And yet, she watches, she's got a 50-something-year-old lady here, and she's watching these movies, and she's thinking, really, wow, this is difficult. Wow, this takes a little bit of work, and you know what? I don't really want to do this. I'm just happy I shot the gun today, and if that's fine, that's fine. But I just thought it was interesting. It was an interesting story to add to all this.
Well, that
nothing
goes
really about gun laws, and I kind of went out the door on that one. Sorry.
Well, no, that goes to the point I was trying to make, is that, a lot of these people who are non-gun owners, they really don't understand the responsibility that comes along with gun ownership, especially if you're carrying every day. They don't understand what that's like. They have no idea the mindset that goes along with having a gun in your belt all day long. And that's part of the problem with our society, is that these anti-gun people, or even just the non-gun owners, they have no clue. what goes on, the responsibility that goes along with gun ownership, the responsibility that we take on, and the just the responsibility that we're willing to have. And they think
100%.
They think it's something else, though. They think it's like, oh, these gun owners are just running around shooting everything, and they just grab a gun and they can do it. No, it's nothing like that. See, that's
but I'm going to pause you right there, and I have to add my 2 cents, and I'm sorry.
It's all right, go ahead.
That's the illegal guy. That's the idiot that's got to steal the gun from his father or mother and go shoot up a school and do the wimpy thing, do the slimy thing, and I'm thinking of all these things, but you told me I couldn't swear. But that's the bad person, and unfortunately they equate the gun, to the bad person. And now you see a gun, you're a good guy with a gun, but you're the legal guy, but no, you have the gun now, and only bad people have gun, because that's what makes the media, that's what makes the news. And unfortunately they never talk about the person. That person was deranged. They had a bad mind. Something was wrong upstairs. They didn't seek mental help, and obviously they did whatever they did. And let's find help for the person. Let's not ban the firearm. And unfortunately, that's where we are here in this state. And that's kind of bringing it back here. Applaud the person. Heck, if you have a handgun license and you're listening to us in New York here, God bless you. Good for you. I applaud you. I'm standing up right now. I salute you, because you went through a lot, not only to get that handgun license, but to continually have that handgun license. And we are the minority. So other people, your neighbors in this state do not like you. And that's the way we have the scarlet letter on us that for some reason. And that's why when I go to Wyoming and I go hunting and my guide says, well, how come you don't support the NRA? And I'm like, yeah, I support the NRA. Well, then how come your truck doesn't have a sticker? That's a couple of years ago. That's what I got. How come your truck doesn't have a sticker? And I'm like, because I live in New York. You know that, and I can't, I wouldn't put a sticker on anything, because my neighbors are crazy, because they don't believe in the stuff I believe in. So there's reasons for everything. It kind of opens your mind up. But please, if you come in, if I want to tell anything in this episode, I want to say, if you come into New York, be extremely careful. Do not, unless you are a New York resident and have a handgun license, do not come in this state with a handgun. Our law enforcement here, our ADAs or our DAs, our prosecutors, they will they'll tear you apart, and you'll spend all your money, tens of thousands of dollars, to clear your name. And you've heard all these stories of people that get stuck because they flew into LaGuardia and they had a gun, and people don't get it, that the plane isn't UPS. They're not going to keep. They don't own that product. That your luggage or whatever the case it might be. You have to go get it. They're saying, hey, go get this. Well, as soon as you do, and you go get that box that has the handgun in, well, there's the cop. And it's not. I feel bad, because there's a lot of good cops out there, and they don't mean it. They're doing their job. So I'm trying to tell you, if you're traveling with a firearm, don't come anywhere near New York. It's a bad state when it's if you do it right, it's a good state. I don't want people. I say it's a bad state, and I feel like I'm an anti-gunner, and I'm not. Obviously, I'm not. But it's you got to do it the right way. You got to play by the rules.
Well, I think we don't want
bloodthirsty.
We don't want people getting in trouble. I mean, that's what we're
right.
Not that we agree with these New York gun laws, because I oppose everything about them with every last fiber of my body, my last fiber of my being. I hate it. But we don't want our friends coming in from other states and getting in trouble. So speaking of that, Kevin, here's a question for you. Can you kind of explain how the federal background check works? Like what happens when we put our when we do that NICS form and all this? How does that whole process work? What happens to us? What happens to our identity? And what kind of searches are going on?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So most of the nation, you're going to go into, you want to buy a gun, doesn't matter if it's a long gun or a handgun, you're going to go into a gun shop and you're going to fill a 4473. So that's an ATF form. They're all Department of Justice, by the way, but the Department of Bureau of ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, you're going to go fill out a 4473, and the gun dealer is going to need, or clerk behind the counter is going to need to see some sort of governmental ID. And now we have to swear to this. So it's got to be a picture ID. It's got to have your address, your date of birth on it. I probably missed some sort of something on it, but mainly your address, and your address has got to put down match what you just put down on the form. So people are unbelievably honest, and they should be. So some gentleman was in the store the other day buying a gun. We're talking a couple of months ago because right now I'm closed. But they have they put their address on because it just moved, right? So now they have to give me supporting documentation because their driver's license has a different address on it. So all of you people that don't know that, bring in your new utility bill or something that puts you at that address. Okay, so we did all this. We did it great. The gun dealer's happy with it. We signed it. We dated it. Now the gun dealer goes into what's called a LEAP system, LEEP, LEAP system, and we do a background check. And we're basically putting all that information that you put on that form into the FBI system. And the FBI is making us swear by, yes, this is the individual in front of us. Yes, we have the proper identification, us as the gun dealer or the gun clerk. Yes, this is who it is. We're putting in your identification number, all this stuff. And we send it off to them. Now, they're going to check. The FBI is going to check. So I do this by the computer via the internet. But people, you can certainly call in. Other gun dealers might call into the FBI. And then the FBI is going to check. I believe it's 4 different locations. They're going to check for mainly if you're not on certain lists. So they're looking for any felonies, obviously, looking for domestic abuse, misdemeanors from domestic abuse. They're looking for immigration status. You wouldn't believe how many people, I'm always shocked by it anyway, how many people really might be permanent residents, or they might be here on a work visa. And you're thinking, wait a minute, work visa can buy a gun? Well, yeah, believe it or not, they can if they have a hunting license, because it puts them here that they're supposedly here to go hunting, or just to work and then they're going to go hunting type of a thing. So yeah, it's really weird that we can do all this type of stuff. I'd rather just sell to an American citizen, but that's the way it is. And by the way, a side note, me as a dealer or any gun dealer, we don't have to sell. All right. If we feel that, I don't know, this person's from another country, I don't really understand what they're doing. I don't really want to do this sale at all. Yeah. And that actually happens to us. We'll do that sometimes. We'll be like, what? I gotta be honest with you. There's a lot of good people out there, and they just want a gun, and they get the whole thing, and so we sell them the gun. Everything's legal. Anyway. So it goes to the background check. The background check, the FBI, the feds, they'll come back, the LEAP system, it'll come back with either a proceed, so we can proceed the sale. Mm-hmm. We can go through with it. And the person leaves with the gun, sell them the gun, they're happy, we're happy, everybody's happy. Or it could be a delay status. Now, delay status is very easy, or very, very interesting. I didn't mean to say easy. The first one proceeds very easy, and the last one deny. You're not happy as the customer, but the dealer's happy because I got a decision, and it was a deny. And it's just, hey, it is what it is. Sorry, bud, you're denied. And then I give you another form, and you can go ahead and petition the government to say, hey, I think you got the wrong information. And you go on. You start it usually online, and with the number that it's called an NTN number that the gun dealer gives you, and the feds might be looking for more information, like a fingerprints and this and that. So they send you a fingerprint card or whatever. Usually the local ATF agent will get a hold of you. But I would like to talk about the delay.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The delay is a very, very interesting area. So in different states, delay means different things. We go back to New York. So delay nationwide usually means that they're delaying the sale for up to 3 business days. So we're giving the government 3 days to find your name in one of their background checks.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, isn't that the limit that they are allowed? The ATF is allowed up to, but no longer than 3 days to approve?
And that is federal, and you are 100% correct. But now there are some states that have said, you know what, we want to give the FBI more time. We're New Jersey. I don't know if this is right, New Jersey, but I'm guessing here. We're New Jersey, and we're going to give you 10 days, Mr. Government. And the government now has 10 days, or basically they stop the sale of the dealer. So I'm going to tell you about New York because I know all about New York. So New York passed, and Governor Cuomo signed. So it's now law. Happened last year in September. It went into law 2019. We have to wait 30 days. And I was screaming like a baby about this. 30 days is a crazy, and you'll see what I mean by this in a second here. 30 days is a really bad time frame. And some non-gun people will say it's only 30 days, so it's a month. Oh well, this won't be a crime of passion then, or this won't be a crime of whatever. It's not all about that. Come on, that's crazy. What we're talking about here is now you've been delayed, and for whatever reason, you're stuck. The FBI can't find any information on you, or maybe you're on a list. That's what usually it is. You're on a list, but they think you should be cleared. But they can't get the local government, whether it's the local state government or a county or whatever, to clear you in time. So 30 days pass and you're still in this delay process. Okay, so you'd think after the 30 days, the dealer can go ahead and proceed the sale. But unfortunately, the NICS number, the NTN number, is only good for 30 days.
Oh, wow.
So now I can't sell. This is like a backdoor gun. Yeah. I cannot sell you the gun as the customer. So you're in a loop. You're in a pattern. You need to find out what is going on and why you're on this list. And you need to clear your name. Yeah, so this has happened a lot. And I got to tell you, our local ATF agent is really good about it. She's pretty frustrated about the whole ordeal. And she even says it all the time. She goes, some of these people, she goes, I don't even know what's wrong with them. And I'd like to clear them, but I can't because they are stuck on this list. And so what happens is a lot of people know this when they buy a gun. It's called a UPIN number. And so when the federal government has a problem and they can't seem to clear your name, they give you a UPIN number. Some people don't want that UPIN number because now the government knows every time you buy a gun because you're going to have an account basically with the FBI. Mm-hmm. If I'm saying that right, I believe I am. And it might be a little bit off, but that's about the right way of explaining it anyway. And then it takes time, though, to get this UPIN number. So I have a customer right now. He's been waiting. It's definitely been beyond 3 months just to get this UPIN number so he can go ahead and get a proceeded sale on a hunting shotgun. So he missed turkey season. Turkey season is now, and it is gone. And he wanted this Mossberg 835, and he's not going to get it because he didn't get his UPIN number in time. Not his fault. And it's not even his fault that he can't pass the background check. We don't know why he can't. We can't figure it out. So I feel bad.
This is the point. Across the country, gun owners are screaming listening to us right now, and they're screaming, going, why the hell do you people live in New York?
100%. Because if you lived in anywhere else, let's pick on a good state, even if it's a liberal state, we'll pick on Bernie Sanders' state of Vermont, right? After 3 business days, they can go ahead and proceed that sale. I believe. I don't think anything changed up there. After 3 business days, the gun dealer can go ahead and proceed that sale, and that guy can go be out there turkey hunting.
So Kevin, before we're starting to get a little low on time here, I definitely wanted to talk about the conversation is fantastic, by the way. Thank you so much, because this is stuff that people just don't get. They don't understand. So what I wanted to get you to talk a little bit about the New York SAFE Act, because people look at, on a national level, they look at the New York SAFE Act as probably one of the most draconian, gun laws. Can you give us some, bullet points and explain what the heck is it exactly, and how does it affect us?
Yeah, so great question. And first off, this is like grassroots stuff. We're talking like right down to the nitty gritty. There's no marketing in here. There's no fluff. This is what we do every day of the week, type of stuff. That's why I hope it's interesting to some of the listeners out there. So back in 2013, unfortunately, right before in 2012, we had Sandy Hook, and our politicians here, Connecticut's our neighboring state. And so they thought, Cuomo and crew thought that it would be a good idea to pass a bunch of anti-gun laws. What do they say about Democrats? No good crisis.
Don't let a crisis go to waste.
There you go. And they didn't. So
I think that was Rahm Emanuel who said that.
There you go. Well, it still haunts him. And he's right, by the way. So they used this crisis, Sandy Hook, and they started formulating all these crazy laws. In fact, they all these crazy ideas, I should say. They weren't laws yet. So they were formulating all these ideas, and all. And they called it a necessity. What happened is they knew that it was mounting. We were mounting, right? So the conservatives, the Republicans, we were in for the fight, right? So we were going to mount a fight. And we were starting to talk about or getting ready to have these marches on Albany. Albany's the capital of New York, kind of like what they just did in Virginia. Yeah. We were going to have all these big marches and rallies and all that type of stuff, which we did, by the way. Yep. Unfortunately, though, they already passed a law because they passed it in the middle of the night. They called it a message of the necessity, or I'm calling it wrong because it's not on the top of my head right now, but it's something with necessity. And you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And they passed this thing. What got me was I remember talking to the at the time, I still think he is, but I don't want to say his name, but he ran a lobbying group for the local NRA here in New York State. And I remember talking to him, and he said, I didn't think – I was so upset. I think I called him up, and I don't really know him 100%, but he's been in the store a few times. And I called him up. And he answered his phone. He probably shouldn't have. And I was so upset this thing passed. And I said, where were you? How did this pass? How did this happen? I remember yelling at him, and he said, I was there. I spent days there, lobbying, giving our side of the story, going to all these committees. And I'm sure he did his job right, But he said, they told me, they promised me that they weren't going to vote on this that night. They said they weren't. And I really think they voted on it you can look it up, but it was late. 12, 1, 2 in the morning, and New York this is the way we do things. I don't know why, but we vote on budgets that late. We do everything. It's crazy. But he had left. He had told me he left. And my heart went right down to my stomach. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Now I blame him. It's not him, I'm sure. It's just that we have a lot of liberal people that wanted to ban guns, that still want to ban guns in New York State. And so the SAFE Act was passed. And the SAFE Act basically is, basically, for lack of better words, they don't even know what it does because we're still trying to define it. We're still trying to figure it out. Our legal scholars, our judges, our sheriffs are still trying to figure out this crazy backwards law. Basically, the summary of it is it defined what an assault weapon is and what we can have and what we can't have in New York State. And so a semi-automatic, a rifle with certain types of cosmetic features. Now, I hate that word cosmetic features, but, they're features. Now, Eugene Stoner put them there for a reason, but okay, sure. Getting beyond. If it has a threaded barrel, if it's a semi-automatic with a detachable, with the ability to accept a detachable box magazine, and it has any one of the features, the evil features, like a collapsible stock, a pistol grip, a bayonet lug, a flash hider or muzzle brake or threaded barrel, basically, they got it right down to, then it's banned. And the big thing here, and we're working on getting around all this type of stuff, but I don't want to talk about that just yet. The big deal here is we had to register these. They pushed us to register these guns. Now, a lot of people didn't register, and they're doing their civil disobedience, and that's fine. But what they're looking at here is the New York State government's a little. They think slow. They think generational. And so somewhere along the line, you're either going to move out of the state with that gun that you never registered, and they don't care. Good for you. Good. You moved out of state. You're never coming back, because we're trying to build a state with no guns in it, or no assault weapons in it, is really their end goal here. And when you really look at it, it's evil. So then you have a nice person that decided that I'm going to be legal and I want to go shoot my gun at a local gun range, and I don't want to worry about it, so I'm going to go register my gun. Okay, that's fine. I went to go register your gun. Okay, and we had customers that did that, right? So now somewhere in between, the customer passes away, and they left the gun to their daughter. And this just happened, by the way, a couple months ago. And the daughter comes in, and now the sheriff's department has the gun. And rightfully so. Usually the sheriffs just go in, the deputies or troopers just go in, they take the guns, and then they kind of figure it out later. And I get that, because, like that, just, there's a lot of things that happen when a family member passes away, a lot of emotions and stuff like that. So I guess I understand, because we have the handgun laws and we have these assault weapon laws. So let's just figure it out later. Right. So, okay. So now the daughter comes to me and she says, what are my options? And I said, yeah, we got to get you a handgun license if you want to keep the. Oh yeah, Dad wants me to have the handguns. I want to get a handgun license. Beautiful. We're going to set you up. Here's the application. We're going to go to this course. This is what we're going to do. And she's doing it. She's in the middle of doing it. Uh-huh. She goes, what about Dad's AR-15? Dad had a beautiful Colt AR-15. He was so happy about. It had the green label box and everything. I said, oh yeah, that's the real deal. That's like early 90s, vintage, late 80s vintage Colt. As a collector's person, which I am, that's the cool. She had the box. She brought me the box. The sheriff's department has the gun. And I'm like, wow, that's really neat. That she has this. And she's like, yeah, Dad left it to me, and I want it. And I'm like, okay, did Dad register it? It doesn't matter anyway, because that's the sheriff's department. And she's like, yeah, I think so. Is that this paperwork? And she shows me the paperwork. And I'm like, I said, here's the deal. I says, we only have a couple of choices here. We can have the sheriff's department destroy it. I says, we can have it sent out of state to another relative, or I can get the gun for you and I can sell it for you. Or the last, and what most people do is we can modify it. We can get the gun and we can modify it. And she's like, well, what's modifying it? I says, well, we're going to take the bayonet lug off. We're going to take the flash hider off. We're going to take. She goes, but it's not going to look like the same. I go, no, it's not. Or we can do a few other things, fix maggot or whatever. But it's just the concept of this poor lady now has to go through all this to get this gun, and she's shocked, because she is a gun person. I'm going to say she's a 2.0. She's going to learn about guns. So now she's in her 50s and she's going to learn about guns, which probably her father was trying to help her out with, but she just wasn't getting it because kind of life gets in the way type of a deal. And now she's doing it, which is awesome. We got another gun person, but she's learning it a different way. And I feel bad for her. And there's a lot of people like her. And that's what this SAFE Act did. There's a lot of guns we can't have 10-round magazines. There's no private sale anymore in New York State. So now I want to sell a gun to you, Dan. I'm going to go visit you and I'm going to sell you a gun, or I want to just give you a gun. You're a good guy, and I love what you're doing here with these shows, and I love your books, and I want to give you a commemorative a gun. And I can't even do that. Yeah, I know you would. That's awesome. And we're sharing guns, right? But the way we have to do that is through a gun dealer. I can't give it to you as a private sale or just because I want to, because you're a good person. You have to go and meet me at a gun shop. I have to turn the gun over to the gun dealer. The gun dealer has to put that in their bound book. And now you are going to have to do the 4473 and the background check to get that gun out of there. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, gee, you know what? That might be the right thing to do, because now we're checking on Dan to see if Dan's a good guy and if there's any skeletons in the closet and this and that. And I kind of get that, and I don't, because there are still, like if I want to give a gun to my cousin, or I want to give a gun to my aunt or my uncle, or they want to give me a gun, I got to get that gun dealer involved. Yeah, and that's a hard thing to do sometimes, right? And it's hard enough to meet somebody at a diner to have dinner.
Exactly. And I think a big part of the problem is that a lot of times there are, like you talked about the delays and the denies. A lot of times people are falsely denied? I mean, I guess there's many reasons. Maybe you can expand on it, but common names or social security numbers or addresses. Or
I had as simple as this. I had a gentleman 6, 7, 8 months ago. He was on a list. He went, so the local place to go when you're on vacation is all the way out to Cape Cod in Massachusetts, neighboring state. You want to go to the ocean, right? And this guy got an open container, and he got thrown in jail for having an open container type of thing. For a couple hours, whatever it was, his wife got him out. And he never went back to he got a citation. He was supposed to go back to court. But he's like, I'm never going to go back to Massachusetts after this. Are you kidding me? So he decided not to go back. Well, that got him a bench warrant now.
Oh, wow.
And so now, many months later, he comes to the gun shop to buy a gun. And what happens? He has this bench warrant out, and the FBI doesn't give him the proceed. They give him a deny.
Yeah.
So now he had to go all the way back to Cape Cod, all the way back to wherever it was, and actually sit through this judge telling him, all the bad things he did, and he should have come to court a couple of years earlier and pay a fine and all that stuff. So, these are the reasons why. It's not because these people are bad people. They're not, these people didn't go and murder a bunch of people or anything like that. He didn't go to court.
Wow.
So he cleared it, and now he's clear. And now he can buy guns again. So it's simple. It's just simple stuff like that most of the time. So that's why.
And it's such a different world when you go like down south, for instance. I go down to Alabama a lot, and Arkansas and Florida, and a lot of the southern states, Tennessee, and
beautiful.
And especially when I go down to Alabama, I'm friends with all the guys down there in Bama Cary. And I'll go down there. I'll do speaking events and do book signings and things like that.
Beautiful.
And everybody, carrying a 1911 on their hip, right out in the open.
Freedom.
Right,
yeah, God bless them. Freedom. Well, they got a lot of those feral hogs down there. That's where I like to go down and hunt those hogs. You got to be careful of those things. You don't carry a gun sometimes just for the local bad guy. You might carry it because of the feral hog or or whatever. There's a lot of reasons. It's crazy. So I'm sure I went way over your time, and that's what I'm thinking about right now. And
No, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. We've got the time. We are now at the end here. I want to ask you just one more question about guns and ammo sales since this Corona crisis, this Corona scare. What are you seeing?
Yeah. So obviously beforehand, and I don't know what the listeners are thinking here, but beforehand, 5-6 weeks ago, it was crazy. We sold almost every long gun. So obviously people couldn't get their handgun licenses quick enough. So they were going after the long guns, and we practically sold every long gun in the store, and we couldn't get them fast enough. There was a run on gun shops basically throughout the nation. We are non-essential. So unfortunately, the federal government says we can be open. The state government has us closed down. So I learned real quick to come up with a website. And it's not any good right now. It's going to get better every day. But I'm listing my products on the website right now. I just have long guns on there, hopefully handguns by the end of the week, and maybe next week ammo or whatever. But I'm starting to list that stuff, and people can see it. And so now they can buy it on the website, and now they can come in. And we're doing what's called kind of like a modified curbside delivery, in that they can't come into the store, but they can come in and to our foyer and grab the clipboard from us, fill out the 4473, and then they go back in their car. It's this huge dance. They go back in their car. We get their phone number, we have their ID, we call the FBI, we do all that type of stuff, and we get them proceeded, and then we call them back into the foyer. We might even go out there, we get their credit card information, then we tell them to pop their trunk or whatever. We put the gun in their trunk. Really strange to me. I mean, out of this world type of stuff. Like, I can't believe this is the way I'm selling guns. But people are doing it, and because they want guns, they feel comfortable. There's something comfort about guns, and that they have a gun, and this is what they always wanted. And they're American. We're allowed to do that. We're allowed to have guns. We're allowed to feel comfort. We're not scared. So they do it. With that, I am shocked how many people are actually going through my little COVID central here. They're my way of doing. It's not my way. I actually don't want to do it this way, but this quarantine lifestyle. But sales are crazy. When I call a supplier to restock the store, I have to have a very open mind. I can't get what I want. So I want a 590 Shockwave, and I want 20 of them for my store. They'll say, no, you can't get that, but we have this Dickinson brand. Or we have this, I don't know, I can't even think of all the different crazy brands I've had in the last 6 weeks, different types of shotguns that I've never even heard of before. So now I'm used to calling up my suppliers and saying, what do you have today in a pump action 12 gauge or 20 gauge with a short barrel?
Like, what's the shotgun du jour? What's on the menu this week?
Exactly. But in there with all this, it's crazy, and we're doing it, and it's hard to get stuff. Still can't get slugs, and we're doing 00 buck and stuff like that. But it's wild times.
So Kevin, are you now your gun store is Zacks Sports in Round Lake, New York. Website. Let me get your website here so people can go and check you out. It's zacksports.com. ZACKSSPORTS. Zacks, plural, sports.com. So people can check you out there. And so Kevin, just tell us let's just wrap up. I really appreciate you being here and talking about this stuff, because I know people are interested in understanding and learning about what goes on in some of these blue states, unfortunately, that some of us are living in. But tell people where they can find you. Are you doing online sales? How can people get you on the national level? Because we're talking to a lot of people across the country right now, and I want to make sure that they can find you and utilize your services.
Well, I do certainly appreciate that, and I appreciate all the people listening and all the gun-loving people in the world and in America, obviously. So I'm located over at just as Dan just said, www.Zacks Sports.com. And you go on that. We're a local store. I'm not really looking to do national business. I'd love to sell you a gun, though, and I will certainly do national business. You just have to understand, federally, we sell a gun to you, maybe, and we would actually ship it to a gun dealer in your area. And so we have to get your local gun dealer involved, and then we ship the gun there, and then they do all the necessary paperwork there. I will hopefully have other stuff on there, but like I said, we have long guns on there right now. We have handguns on there. Ammo's going to be going on there soon. We'll have other trinkets on there. We love AR type stuff, AR platform guns, AR-10, AR-15. So we're going to start building some uppers and getting them on there. But everybody else does that too, and we understand. But we're just a local brick and mortar, and I guess it's not we're going to become old fashioned here real quick, is what they're telling me. I'm not, I guess brick and mortars are going away, and now the whole world is on the internet. But we're old fashioned people here, and we like doing the old fashioned local stuff. But and I really appreciate the show. Listen, I get out, I hunt the country. I love going hunting, and I love going out. I'm a counselor for USCCA, and so I go up to Wisconsin every now and then with those folks, South Bend up there, and beautiful folks up there. And so you'll find me out there maybe shooting or hunting. And I just we have the right. We all think kind of the same when you find us as gun owners or hunters or even self-defenders, collectors of firearms, and I love the way we think. We're Americans, and we love to support each other. And I hope I see you out there on the trail. I hope I see you out there at a range somewhere. I hope I'm shooting with you. And it's just a wonderful thing, and it's almost like a religion, I think, and it is. It's America, right? And
it brings people together too. I've noticed that the unity among gun owners is just unbelievable, and there's kind of a brotherhood that I'm finding, especially right now with the way the anti-gun left is digging in their heels. I'm noticing a unity among gun owners like I've never seen before. But anyway, Kevin, thanks so much. I really appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you.
And I think you just gave people listening just a whole world of knowledge with respect to New York. So thanks so much. We'll have to do it again.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Please do. And thank you very much. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for joining me today for some straight shooting Second Amendment talk. Broadcasting across America and around the globe, powered by the Hagman Report. Good Gun, Bad Guy Radio can be heard each and every Saturday from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, broadcasting on the Global Star Radio Network and its affiliates. You can visit goodgunbadguyradio.com or HagmanReportLive.com to listen to the show live or stream the show on demand 24/7. Show archives can be found on iHeartRadio and YouTube, and you can download the podcast of the show on your favorite podcast app. Email me at info@goodgunbadguy.com. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and just about every other social media platform on the planet. And to check out the Good Gun Bad Guy book series, go to goodgunbadguy.net. And don't forget, the Second Amendment is not a privilege, it's your right.